Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on today's video. Everyone, this is Dr. Alex Avila with Love University, and we're back. I'm an author, psychologist, and speaker. Every week we talk about how to love yourself, others, in a higher nature, how to improve your finances, career, health, relationships, and spirituality. Today we have a very interesting guest. We have Corey Lion Folsom. Lion is like a lion. And he has been a professional tracker, Aboriginal skills instructor, wilderness guide for newly sober people, and a vision quest leader. He's also a highly regarded love and relationship coach, and the author of his first book came out last year, 2023, Soul Statements. He also enjoys meditation and has 2 adult sons. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. Glad to be here.
Excellent. I'm kind of curious about the word. What does that mean? Aboriginal skills instructor. What is that exactly? It sounds interesting.
Aboriginal meaning the people that lived kind of a primary hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So
right.
So fire without matches, building shelter, tanning hides, tracking animals, edible plants.
Okay. Right. So you teach people how to be Aboriginals, or how does that work?
No, Aboriginal to Canada, Aboriginal to America, Aboriginal wherever. Yeah, it's just an all-encompassing term.
Okay, so how to be in nature, like do nature rituals and stuff like that? Is that what you teach them?
I would take people out and show them the plants that were good to eat, the ones to stay away from, or also just uses of plants. So I got very much into ethnobotany, the native uses of.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like a nature history lesson or something, some kind of training.
Yeah, so people that wanted to be able to, make a fire without matches or make shelter with your bare hands, no matter where you are.
Interesting. Now, you have a new book. Can you show me the book? It looks really nice. And by the way, that's my favorite. What color is that, by the way? The book.
It's blue with
my favorite color.
Yeah,
I love blue. So.
And it's actually funny. The gold and blue are the color of my high school. So.
Oh, way. Okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, everything about I like is blue. Now, in the book, you talk about the distinction between affirmation and soul statements, which is your book is about soul statement. So affirmation you describe as something that you want or have, and something you visualize. And I had this author named Ariel Ford. You may have heard of her. She did stuff about soulmates and all, a spiritual author. And she talks about something called feelingization, where if you want a soulmate, you kind of imagine that you're with them right now and you feel as if you are. So, for example, you have a big garage, you clean it out, and you leave it for 2 cars, even though you don't have 1 car. Or you sleep on the one part of the bed, and you imagine they're on the other part. So it's kind of like, and you feel the joy with that person. On the other hand, you talk about soul statements. You say, this is a profound reminder of what is already true, a condensed message of knowingness. So a little bit about that difference between the two.
Yes. So soul statements would be maybe a subset of greater affirmations. And Ariel is exactly right that it's the feeling, the emotion that actually makes the difference, makes things come into being. And so with a soul statement, it's not so much about the future, calling that to you with feeling. It's about, I'm thinking some unhelpful thoughts right now. Let me just interrupt that and remember what's good and unchanging about myself. So if I'm maybe thinking, I'm not sure I'm up for whatever challenge, a soul statement might be, I can call upon the grit inside me, or I have grit inside me, keep it simple, or my soul knows what to do. And if we go deeper and feel what's really the impulse, the soul impulse inside of us, we can connect with that, then we're more resourced for the next best step or the next thought.
I like that. That's kind of interesting. And then you see one of them is I am enough for people that lack confidence. I am enough.
Yes.
And what you just said, I found interesting. You said good and unchanging, because unchanging is kind of like something that's stable, right? That stays with you. I guess your soul would be unchanging, right? If you believe in the soul. And so is that what you're talking about? Something that is a very stable internal thing?
Absolutely, Alex. And so you can have a soul statement such as, I have a loving heart. My heart is a trusted guide. And that's unchanging.
I get it. Now, the other thing you talked about, Corey, is kind of interesting. You use the word center a lot. Center, being centered. And then you have a word called querencia, which my family tradition is from Spain. You talk about the bullfighting and a place where the bull feels secure, maybe a space. And then in the martial arts, Eastern philosophy, we have a term called the hara, you may have heard about, which is 0.2 inches below your navel, which is your center of power. So martial artists, when they're in a stance, they focus all their energy on the hara, and it's impossible to push them. You can have a huge person, and they can't move at all because they're centered and balanced. So tell us about that centering querencia idea.
Yeah. So it's a place where emotionally you can go back to, or in your mind, you can go back to remember what you're made of, who and what and why you are, and you're trying to gather up a gem of a statement that anchors you to that inner core, your soul, if you will, and whatever's deep in you that's strong and good and real and true, and that is more of a resource when you connect to it. So you want to, that all lives in your center. And so I'm a big fan of spending time in stillness, where your impulses, your true desires will naturally kind of bubble to the surface. And like I am enough, and to really feel it. And you ideally, when you're stating that, you want to state it with the type of conviction where you feel it in your bones, and maybe your cells start to vibrate with a yeah, for sure. We know that too, and we're glad you're saying it and feeling it.
Yes, I see. Now, some people talk about meditation or prayer, and you said stillness. So how would you practice stillness? Do you sit there quietly and close your eyes for 10 minutes? Do you visualize something? How do you do it?
I do usually stand in front of a little home altar in the morning for about 5 minutes. And then I also go to, if I'm inside, I go to a window where the morning light is shining through, and I just feel the newness and expansiveness of this day and this light that's filling the world. And so I just am still with that. Me personally, one of my favorite ways to feel stillness is when I'm body surfing, to dive under a wave and just hold myself on the bottom with the sand and just listen. And there's this resonance, sonorous stillness, some great mystery that I can feel as the waves going over, and there's this under layer of stillness there.
How do you do that? You like Aquaman? Do you stay in the water?
I just gotta grip the sand, and I'm flat as possible.
Well, how long can you hold your breath? It seems like a tricky thing to do that.
I just do it for the duration of the wave, usually. So
for like a few
10
seconds,
maybe.
Okay, interesting. So
but again, I can, when I'm sitting at home, I can connect to that moment in my heart, and I can sit here and go, there is a stillness inside me. The stillness under the ocean lives inside me, and I can connect with it and feel it now.
Wow. It's pretty powerful. Yeah. Now, you mentioned standing. Now, standing seems a little bit uncomfortable. Do you stand when you meditate?
No. It's just
I thought you said you stand. You stand for 5 minutes. You said.
Yeah, I like to phrase it as I think of it as a stillness offering. So I'm offering my stillness to the forces of the day and the spiritual.
So is that really? Most people think of meditation as sitting down or something. You're crossing your legs, but you don't do that.
Yeah, and I can also find a bit of that inner stillness, the emptying of the mind, by purposely strolling at a slow pace through the forest. The Japanese have a thing called forest bathing, where you're just absorbing the energy of the plants and trees and birds, and
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, just kind of something to focus on that I don't engage my mind with. For some people, that might be doing a hard workout at the gym, just punching a bag over and over, and you're not thinking as much as just doing and feeling.
Yeah, I've heard of walking meditation, where you're just aware of nature and all that stuff. I think you're talking about. Now, I wrote a book called The Gift of Shyness. Actually, years back, actually, that was one of the first to talk about shyness as a positive trait in some ways. For example, shy people are good listeners. They can be sensitive. They also have the self-conscious side, what I call the self-observer. They think people are looking at them and criticizing and judging them. Now, are you shy?
Tremendously.
You're still shy?
Oh, yes. Yes. If
Okay.
we've had this conversation, if I saw you in the grocery store tomorrow, I would switch aisles
Oh,
so I don't run
no.
into you. That's how shy I am.
Oh, I get it. Okay. So basically, you are into the self-observer, but, to cure that, we talk about the actor or someone that is spontaneous, like maybe free-flowing and natural. And to cure that, for example, is there an actor that you like or actress that, that you identify with?
Yeah, sure. We'll pick Matthew McConaughey.
Okay. What do you like about Matthew McConaughey?
He just has this, or at least he comes across as a easygoing nature, but yet he's very insightful, and he's taken opportunities to do fun and interesting things in his life.
Okay. You talking about as a real person or as an actor in the movies?
I was kind of mixing both, but yeah, I kind of went first into acting and then real person, but yeah.
Right. I think I saw him recently as something. He does comedy too, right? I mean, funny stuff.
I don't know.
He's Matthew McConaughey, you're saying, no? The actor?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's done romantic comedies, a lot of stuff,
Oh yeah, rom-coms.
Yeah, of course. So I would say to you, like, maybe, identify some of the traits you like, maybe act a little bit like him, talk like him, and so forth. But one of the techniques in the book, I call seizing the space, based on improvisational acting. Improv actually is a very good way. I'm a shy person too, by the way. Okay. Although I've kind of transformed it somewhat. Is to walk in a room and visualize yourself seizing the space, like being, the biggest person. You talk about it in your book too. You say something like, be present to win the bigger you. And you say, my exuberance is a gift. I don't play small. So as a shy guy, how do you do that? Is there an inside of you that's a big guy inside that comes out?
Absolutely. There is a big guy inside. And so there's an ebb and flow to it as well. And sometimes you're absolutely right. You have to seize the moment. And I've gotten better and better about that because, my default is the shy, and I have to, sometimes I'll pull out a soul statement, to overcome that. And something like, these people are lucky to meet me, or, what's right about me is always available. Or I got this. I got this as a kind of a go-to.
And now, one interesting thing you said, you were either going to AA or studied AA principles, even though you're not an alcoholic. But you did it to apply it to fear, to overcome fear. I thought that was very, very insightful. So you said something like, yes, is that?
No, go ahead.
You said something like, I am powerless over fear. Like, in other words, you went through the steps and applied it to fear. And you said, my soul knowing is more powerful than fear. So tell us about that. That's a very creative application of AA.
Yes. And so did
you actually go to meetings just to sit there, or what did you do?
No, I would lead the meetings because I was the group leader. And so I'm out in the wilderness with 6 or 8 newly sober people. Maybe they've been sober anywhere from a week to a month. And they're doing this 6-8 week wilderness program to get away from the same playground and the same playmates and just, when everything changes, change everything. So here they are. And we're just trying to be human with each other. We have challenges, large and small, in the wilderness. And as part of that, we did at least one, sometimes several AA meetings a day. And so in addition to really wanting to have a little closer experience than to what they were going through, I wanted to educate myself on the process, and I felt I could benefit from being less fear-driven decisions.
Interesting. But did you actually go to AA meetings yourself, or did you just study the ideas about it?
Well, I would be at the AA meetings through my day-to-day work. And I've been to outside meetings as well, but more as just go with a friend and be there. Not for my own self. Yeah.
Wow. That's a pretty interesting application of that idea. Now, here's a question. And I know the answer to this already, but the way you wrote it in the book kind of goes a little bit different in a different direction. Are you a nice guy? Is my question. But in the book, you say nice is overrated, and also is over politeness. So I'm thinking of a people pleaser kind of personality. So were you that way, and you try not to be as that way?
That's where I started. That was my boyhood and early manhood history.
Yeah. Yes.
And I've gone a long way toward being more direct. And one of the tricks is to not have the pendulum swing over and be just insensitive jerk,
like a hole or jerk or something they call it. Yeah.
But to just be true to what I need and to honor my own process by using my voice, and just we gain skills by learning to speak up for ourselves, and hopefully in a skillful way. Exactly.
I can see that. Because, feelers, emotionally driven people. I wrote a book, Love Types, based on Myers-Briggs, you may have heard about the thinking, feeling dimension. I have a feeling you're a feeling male, which I am as well. You go, feel that emotional style. But feelers sometimes, they want to please others a lot, and then they get into this thing where they don't, take care of their own nature. But you did say something like having the courage to be clear and being brave enough to disappoint. Now, Corey, can you disappoint people right now?
Absolutely. I can.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So how did you get to that point? Because that's kind of hard for the people-pleasing feelers.
Well, I had it modeled to me. And I respected that.
Like in a relationship with someone else?
I respected that. This woman I was in a relationship with, she put her self-care first, and paid attention to her energy budget. And if it was going to be some activity or staying wherever too long would start to be draining to the point where it was really affecting her, she would kind of head that off and say, I'm happy with this, but I can't participate in an open-ended fashion. I need to, kind of move on.
But you would be disappointed because you might want to be there. But she didn't care about it.
She would speak up for her needs, and then that would start a discussion of, it's not like I'm going to do what I want no matter what.
Wow.
I need to let you know what's going on with me. How are you feeling about all of it? And it's
so she was working with you harmoniously to understand this. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, you talk about self-talk and self-power in your book. So I like it. You break it down into really interesting sections the way you do it. You have a lot of interesting terms, and it sounds like you studied some different philosophies, maybe Native American or other stuff. So you talk about the spirit vow, which I guess is an agreement with yourself, micro commitments.
Yes.
And also, about Don Miguel Ruiz, the idea of be impeccable with your word for the 4 agreements. Sounds like some of the stuff is interestingly connected. So tell us about the spirit vow. How does that work?
Yeah, a spirit vow is, we could put it under the heading of self-care. It's a promise that you make to yourself, because once you peel back a little layer of the onion and you're more connected with your own essence and what you really want, it's easy to let life kind of have its way with you and to not hold to that as firmly as you thought you would. And so a spirit vow can help when you say, I vow to treat my body with care. And so maybe I won't, watch TV after midnight or 11 p.m. or whatever it is, or, respect my bedtime, or I will, just not send myself out to play in the street, but I'll just be more conscious of what I need to do to keep my energy in balance. Or
I'll stop being a pushover and say no when I don't want to go to that party or something.
100%. Yep.
That kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me go through these here. You tell me if this is on target. So you have complain fast, which I see as, maybe taking the time for not complaining, right? Being some positive. Stalk your shadow, something about telling the truth about what's going on inside.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Now, here's one that I find interesting is, I've never heard this before. Be kind with your fear. So most people think of fear either as something they have to, avoid, or sometimes, fear can be useful, if you're in a dark alley, right, you're afraid. But you say, be kind with your fear, give it a voice, but not a vote. So tell us about that part. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. So you want to listen to your fear. You don't want to just override it and say, well, I'm fearless now, so I shouldn't worry about anything. The fear comes up when it's kind of like our psyche just saying, hey, are you sure? And it's another chance to kind of double check, a little checkup from the neck up and make sure that, yes, this is good. Or, you know what, maybe I do want to modify my participation in some way. And so the fear becomes potentially a voice of reason or a voice of a little greater wisdom for me to throw in the mix and say, all right, I'm having some consternation or some apprehension about that. Let me just double check my thinking.
Okay, so say you're hearing this voice that says, I want to leave this relationship that's not good, leave my job, leave where I live, move across the world. And there's some fear there. So what should you do in that case?
I would, in part, I would not just use my own thinking. I mean, I left San Jose one time and moved to San Diego and didn't basically avail myself of any, I had a coach, a personal coach that I had just kind of ended after a couple of years of seeing him every couple of weeks. And I probably should have rechecked in with him because he knew me so well and we could have talked it out. So,
so you never called him. You just changed your number.
I never called him. And it was a disaster. And I thought, well, nobody's going to miss me. I'll just, start over. And I ended up going back 3 years later, 2.5 years later with my tail between my legs. And I should
have listened to your fear, I guess, in that case, right?
Yeah, I should have listened to some other voices, fear included, and not just my own thinking. Right. Because, in AA, they say my best thinking got me here.
I like that. And, some other cool phrases. You say, my self-care makes me more attractive, I guess, to other people. Like some people try to, I guess, in relationships, please the other person, but they deny themselves. But that can also be a problem, right? So you want to take care of yourself first so you can give love to others.
That's right. And I really respect when someone, stands up for what they need. And I think to myself, wow, they're really honoring what's going on with them, and they're brave enough to bring that forth. And I respect that. And I think, wow, what a great example. I can do more of that too.
You're more attracted to them as a human being, as a person, because of that.
Yes, and they're connected to their inner workings, and that's what I want to be too. And so I'm like, right on. They're connected to their needs and their values, and they're speaking up for that, all to the good.
Actually, have you ever studied all those philosophical movements like EST and all the different movements that used to be around?
I haven't.
Heard that before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, I know they have a lot of the landmark, they call it. I mean, they have a lot of different, they combine East and West, principles. Sounds like you have some of that knowledge. Now, there's one here called Up-Level Your Emotional Power. You're talking about brushing your teeth. And so what are you doing? Are you visualizing yourself in a higher emotional state? What does that mean?
I'm affirming and reaffirming that this is something that's good for me to do. This is a good habit. And I can maybe up the value of it even a little bit by saying, I'm keeping that sense of I'm keeping my commitments to myself. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm, doing those kind of things as, like people like me, whatever my self-image is, do these things. We brush our teeth. We take care of ourselves. And so just that kind of, reminder, I'm doing this as an act of love. I would say that on the treadmill in the gym when it's getting harder. I've got a little incline going on, and I'm like, I'm doing this as an act of love. I remind my psyche I'm not doing this to punish myself.
Understand. So up level, you mean the increase your emotional power? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. Keeping those small promises to yourself, those things you told yourself you would do.
So act of self-love or other love when you are on the treadmill and you're going up the hill?
Yeah. I'm doing this as an act of love to me, as an act of self-love.
To you.
Yeah.
But also maybe to others, right? If you're healthier, then you can spend more time with them probably.
Right. I have more to offer the world. Self-care is soul care.
Point. Now, you have one interesting phrase here. My feelings are a superpower. And as a feeling, I would agree with that. But there are people that are thinkers, and they don't think feelings are that superpower. They would say thinking is a superpower. So how would you talk to those people that, they're more logical, analytical, they have their style, as opposed to the feeling personalities?
Yeah. So not to take away from the thinking things out and reasoning as its own superpower. And you don't want to just do one to the exclusion of the other. If you're just operating from your heart and you're, through life, your heart's, bound to be stumped on at some point. And if you're operating from just your mind, you can be a little too clever sometimes.
Good point. When you moved to San Diego, was it a hard or head that made you made that big move?
Totally hard.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, isn't that shouldn't that be cool? I mean, we say hard. You're talking about intuition also, or more just feeling?
Nope.
Not
just
intuition.
a girl I wanted to be with.
Oh, okay. You loved that. Okay, I see. So you think that was not the best approach at the time, or I
didn't really think it through. I didn't take the time to go, well, how's this really going to work? And
okay.
What am I going to,
a feeling
plan,
thing, right?
Plan to make, expand a business or anything. I just I'll go there and we'll work it out. And it's,
Okay, interesting. So you sound like, are you spontaneous on the personality types or more of a planner?
I would say more on the spontaneous. Yeah.
Okay. So you could be what's called the INFP. Does that sound familiar? The internal, you heard that?
No.
Internal energy. Are you intuitive, Corey? Would you say you're imaginative?
My girlfriend says I am, but so.
Oh, okay. You're a feeler for sure. Right? I can tell you're an emotional kind of guy. And you're spontaneous. So that's actually 2% of the population. I call it the idealistic philosopher. And actually, I'm the same type. They like to create a mission in the world. They want to help humanity. Very spiritual kind of people. Very crusade oriented. You have to help others.
Yeah, my girlfriend says everything would be perfect if I was in charge.
Well, you got a good one there. It sounds like 40 years. Now, how about this? I like this phrase here. I always have a better thought to choose. Cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff like that. It's actually a cool phrase. Is that a soul statement too?
Well, yeah, hopefully, absolutely. And with the soul statements, it's, as we said, a little bit of silent time, maybe some journaling. We develop these, connection to our own strengths. And that way we can script in advance how we talk to ourselves. And a lot of success in life comes from, what we think and that little conversation inside our head. And when we, pull out a soul statement and there is strength in my center, I'm creating a bit of a different emotional flow chart. So when I remember how strong I am on the inside, then I'm emotionally, I could choose the next better thought, incorporating that knowing. So I'm giving my brain a better message, and so it can generate a next thought, which is better than I otherwise would have gone to.
Oh, it's very powerful. Now, switching a little bit, Corey, we're talking about ourselves, but Love University, our concept is to love yourself, love others, and love a higher nature. So the idea of others, and I know you're a love relationship coach. So let's talk about others. So first of all, we have what are called difficult people, as we call them. Sometimes people call them toxic or negative or something, and they can be very critical and so forth. So here's what you said. I guess this is a soul statement. I revolve around my own axis. So tell me about that one. This is an interesting idea. So what does that mean? Is that like a planet or something, or how does it work?
Well, if someone it's just that center line of your own being, and you want to be aligned with your values and what you value. And, other people, they'll have their own program, they'll have their own priorities, and you just don't want to be on their wagon and forget what you were here to do. You can interface with them, you can interact with them, and
or if they're criticizing you and attacking you, the negative, you like to see in toxic relationships. You've heard of Gottman's research, marriage research, where he videotapes couples and all that, and sees how they non-verbally interact verbally.
Mm-hmm.
He says he can tell within a few minutes or something if they're going to divorce.
Yeah.
So what if you get into that kind of stuff, blaming and all that? What do you do then in that case?
Well,
in terms of this,
it has to stop, and a person, me or whomever it is, has to just put their foot down and say, I can't be part of a conversation where I feel disrespected. I want to hear what you have to say. What you say is important, and the way you're saying it makes it impossible for me to hear or understand. And so if we could talk in a way that's maybe more respectful, then I could be more engaged, and I could really try to, I'm trying to understand, and I can only do that if we're being respectful with each other.
I like that. It's empathetically responding. Of course, you can take a time out and you can go work out, and they can shop or something, or, they come back.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't escalate.
Right. I need to take some time so I can be better able to hear you.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about something called the redo. So I'm not sure how that applies if you were to say, should you ever say you're sorry to your partner?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And
is that a redo, or how does that work?
The redo, I'm a big fan of, and it's, of course, way easier said than done.
Wow.
And when I hear myself maybe with a little improper tone of my voice, or if someone says to me, oh, I don't like the way you just said that.
Right.
In the first instance, I could say, oh, you know what? That's actually not how I wanted to speak to you. Allow me to redo it. Or in the second instance, you know what? Thank you for pointing that out. That's not how I want to be. So let me redo it.
But do you say, I'm sorry with the redo? Is that words that ever come out of your mouth?
I'm sorry that I hear that wasn't as appropriate as I wanted it to be. I'm sorry. Yes. I didn't mean to cause that kind of feeling. Allow me to redo it.
Interesting. Okay. Because another thing you talked about, you mentioned something of up-level transitions, I believe you said. And also something called the heart hello. But so for the up-level transitions, for example, you said, let's say I'm on my text, I say, hi, how are you? To your partner, right? But that's not really warm, right? So would you redo that and say, hi, honey, how are you? And give him like a hug and kiss with warmth? Is that what you talk about?
You mean by the texting?
No. No, I'm saying, first they say, they're on their phone and they say, hi, from the other side of the room. Oh. So that's their greeting. But then you say, to redo that, you would say, hey, honey, may God be in you, or something like that. So you change your approach. Is that what you recommend to people?
Yeah, absolutely. And even on the text, you can say,
no. They're not texting you. They're texting somebody else. They're texting someone else in front of you. So they're ignoring you, basically, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You don't like that, do you, when they do that?
I prefer, if I'm with someone or they're with me, I want to be ideally really with them. I want them to really be with me. Otherwise, I lose interest and I say, let's pick this up another time when we can be more present for each other.
Exactly. But you talk about a warmer kind of hello, not just perfunctory hi with your partner.
Yeah, you can do perfunctory or we'll say brief hi.
Sometimes.
But with that little extra pause and be, a wink or a hand on the shoulder and be like, yeah, babe, or hey, buddy, good to go. And it's just a little extra, just even a pause can really up-level the feeling of goodwill that you leave that person with.
Good point. Building up I think Gottman something, the emotional bank or something like that. There's a bank account of positive feelings, right?
Right. And
usually when people are about to divorce, they deplete the bank. There's nothing left in the emotional bank.
Right. And I think Jim Gray talks about you have to make 5 deposits for every withdrawal.
Good point. He's been on my show. He's like a good guy.
Oh, great.
Yes, John. But also, you said, I think this in the Buddhist tradition is I see the divinity within you or something like that, or God within you. Is this something you actually say to people like passing, or do you say it in your mind? to others.
Usually in my mind. And, I have this sense too that when someone acts the way I don't think is as appropriate as I wish, sometimes it's helpful for me to remember I didn't grow up with their body, their gender, their family, their school, their pressures, their challenges, their dreams, their anything. And of course, they're acting naturally according to everything they've experienced, and as will I. And so just remembering that, we're all doing our best.
Mm-hmm. So, Corey, you're a tremendously empathetic guy, but I don't know if the average person is like that. For example, let's say you're on the freeway, someone cuts you off. Are you going to think, you can say, well, maybe they're having a bad day or, whatever it is, or they're rushing to a hospital. Most people think they're jerks. What goes through your mind if someone cuts you off on the highway?
I sometimes remember, or a lot of times I remember that maybe this is the only place in their life where they feel powerful.
Good point.
And then a buddy of mine taught me this. If somebody's, thinks a perceived slight from me to them, and they're like, and I just, sometimes I'll just point at the sky, remember God.
Instead of
remember there's a greater life.
Point the other finger.
I point the English finger like, hey man, or sometimes I'll, I've got that steering that keeps me in my lane. So I'll do a quick, hey, like if it's like, that means, hey, I'm sorry if that's what I mean too. Like, my apologies.
So yeah, very good. So you're empathetically responding. Because customer service people can be sometimes rude and aggressive at times. It comes across. So do you say that phrase? This is the only place they feel powerful. Is that something you say?
Yeah. Like this is where they have a modicum of power, and
So you don't take it personal, or try not to take it personally, right? That they're
I really don't take a lot personally.
Well, but feelers do that though. Are you really a feeler or a thinker? Would you say? In life,
I would say probably more I don't know. I think a lot too, but yeah, probably more I don't know, probably maybe a balance, I would say. And then, so. But
the feeler, they're emotional. They like physical, emotional affection. They cry at movies, that kind of stuff. Are you that kind of person?
I think I do both. But, and then also like if there's some perceived slight with, say, the freeway example, I also will say in my mind, they don't know me.
Oh. The true you, the inner you, right? The real you.
They don't know anything about me.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, they probably think you're a bad driver. Who knows? Maybe whatever they're thinking. Right?
Yeah. Well, they still don't know anything about me.
Right. Because one of the things you talk about is let unhelpful impulses subside. Some big again of anger. Sure. Is that what you do? Like, you're human, right? So you must feel anger sometimes, I would think.
Certainly. And
so what do you do in that case?
That's a classic place where I can just pull out a soul statement. What's right with me is always available, or I hold my heart as sacred, worthy of protection.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah. This is a very nice evolutionary stage you're in.
And the other thing too is that I practice this thing I call, I don't know where I heard it, but I call it speed to empathy. Oh. How rapidly can I find empathy for, my wounded heart or my upset, and just can I offer a little empathy to, myself.
Yourself, okay.
Yeah.
We've heard of like self-compassion, so kind of self-empathy is along those lines.
Right there.
You put yourself in your own shoes, but you think you're already in your own shoes, but are you really in your own shoes? Mm-hmm. Maybe you're not, right? Maybe you're looking at it differently.
Yeah, or I forget how in NBC they say when you're angry, you that's a moment where you've forgotten your own lovableness.
What is NBC? What is that?
Nonviolent communication.
Oh, okay. I see. So say that phrase one more time that you were talking about.
When I'm angry at, say, circumstance,
right,
that's a moment where I've forgotten my own lovableness.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've forgotten your, I guess your soul essence. You're talking about the core deep inside.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful. And then you kind of like summarize a lot of stuff with the phrase living in integrity, which I assume is, with yourself and others. Mm-hmm. And then you said, I think some of the statements you say, I am valuable and worthy of a place. I think we're talking about your space that you inhabit. the carencia, I guess, and you said the bulls do that, right?
Yes.
Can you say that in Spanish? The carencia?
Carencia?
That's good. That's a good pronunciation. That's nice. And then you have the exercise where you're looking at yourself in the future, 5 to 10 years, the empowered hero, which is a nice exercise. What you would be like. And I like this one here. This is kind of a good overall statement. Love yourself as your soul loves you. But of course, how do you know your soul loves you? In what way do you define that?
Because when I am quiet and still and really feel down into my center, it feels like I'm home, and home is where everything is okay, and that it's a welcoming, safe place down inside me.
Wow. And that is your soul, no? What you call your soul.
Could be. I'm not pretending to be an expert on the soul, but there's a center place where it's like my carencia is for sure. That's
right. So you say your soul. So we can say your essence, your true nature, your authentic nature.
Yes.
So that is what you say loves you, even if you may not love yourself for the moment, right? You forgot about it. You're saying.
Yeah. There's an inner being that is inside of each of us that is a little wiser than whatever the thoughts that are running around in the front of our brain.
Very powerful. And of course, in Spanish, we use the word hogar for home. Hogar. Can you say that? Hogar.
Hogar.
Yes. Hogar. Yeah, exactly.
Hogar.
You have to roll the R, I think, in the Spanish way. But hogar is like your sweet home. Like people say, I return to my home,
Very nice.
Where they feel that safety and that beautifulnf, right? And the love.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, it's been a beautiful pleasure to have you on the show today. You really lighten a lot of people with all your stuff.
Thank
you seem like
Howard.
a very kind-hearted kind of person, I can tell.
I value
you have a lot of love for people and stuff like that. And for
I do.
Where does that come from? I mean, I don't know are you spiritual in any way or religious, or how did you get all this?
Well, I grew up in the Christian Science religion. And so what I learned from that is that each one of us is connected to a greater spirit, and that there's a source of, spirit nourishment, if you will. And so that was my basis as a young person.
I see. Yeah, we had Judith Arloff on the show. I think you mentioned her in your book.
Yes.
Judith Arloff?
Yes. She's been my partner of now 10 years plus.
Oh, she's your partner. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when I say my girlfriend, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Yeah. She's really, pretty fascinating. And she's very intuitive herself. I think she talks about the psychiatric, so she's a psychiatrist, if I'm not mistaken.
She is.
And plus, so she's got the logic and then the intuition. It's kind of an interesting combination.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have the same, you think you're intuitive and logical in some ways.
Yeah, definitely in some ways. And she's one of the people that have been my model that I admire in terms of the self-care that we were talking about and just, honoring her own energy budget, if you will.
Right. Did she encourage you to write this book by any chance? Or did you want to write it?
No, she was apprehensive, like, oh boy, it's going to be, like most people's first books, it's not going to be that great. I'm going to have to somehow be nice about it. And she was blown away by the product when it was done. Wow. She was very happy.
Cool. Yeah, I was good to have that.
She wasn't looking forward to reading it, but then when she read it, she's like, "Oh, I'm super happy now."
It sounds pretty honestly blunt at times.
Yeah.
But now she loves it because it is a really wonderful book. I really like it.
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of potential here. Is there anything else you're working on, or any? Do you have a website or something where people can get a hold of you and get more about you?
Yeah, Alex. My website's just kind of the place where my email is there, and people can read lots of my blog articles and.
Perfect.
And
what is that website? If you could tell us.
CoreRelationship.com.
Say it one more time.
Core Relationship, just CORE relationship.com.
Relationships.com.
Yeah. Relationship singular.
Okay, corerelationship.com. So that's about you, the book, and everything is there.
There's a page about the book, and the core relationship. I didn't name it that because my name's Corey. I named it that because the core relationship being your relationship with yourself and your higher power.
Yes.
That's your core relationship.
So very beautiful. And then I assume, do you do coaching or do you have any other things going on? Or
I do.
Things?
I coach several people right now with relationships and intimacy, and so that's very. I just enjoy it so much, and I think ideas for a couple books, but I'm going to spend a couple years talking about this one first. My favorite.
I think it's great. You do have something that's very powerful. I think very encouraging, right? And the power of empathy, both externally and internally. That's something very, very powerful that we don't really think about, because we know empathy is with others, but now with ourselves, so we can give more love to others. So it's been a wonderful pleasure having you on the show, Kurt. We'd love to have you back. And then if you can transform your shyness, maybe even in person. Do you ever do any personal stuff? Do you ever speak at all? Mm-hmm. Okay, you're cool with that. So maybe we'll do like a talk or something where we'll have you involved.
Fantastic.
And it's been a pleasure. So again, I think the idea is go within the soul, like you said, the core, and the love that's already in there, right? It's already there, but you just need to feel it, externalize it, right? Extend it without expectations.
Absolutely. You can learn to call up the best part of you in a moment.
Fantastic. So, Corey's been a wonderful guy. And if anyone wants to be talking about today's show, you have a question, you can reach us at 310-226-8090. You can reach us at loveuniversitylove@gmail.com. Visit us at loveuniversity.love. So until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila. And for our visiting guest professor today, please put away your notebooks, your iPads, your phones. Class is now dismissed. That was a fascinating interview with Corey Lyon Folsom. He's a brilliant man. He's a tracker. He's a nature lover, but he also has this inner sense of that we have the soul internally, that whether you call that essence, nature, love, whatever you call it, it's within us. And that is something we need to be in contact with, that core, that power that we have internally, and then share with other people, extend it with love and without expectation. So until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila. We appreciate all the listeners, all the viewers throughout the world that are interested in what we're doing here. Now, if you want to learn more, you can come to our website, loveuniversity.love. And also you can follow the social media links below. And you can also like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube Love University channel. Until next time, this is Dr. Alex Avila. Put away your notebook, your iPad, your phones. Class is really dismissed this time.